didn't hear him say recording in progress.
You did, I just.
Oh,
Is Noreen online?
yes. She's
Should be good to go. Okay, very good. I want to welcome everybody to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for June 28th, 2023. And if everybody could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Noreen, if you could do the roll call, I'd appreciate it.
You're muted.
Okay. Chairman Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Claffey, Commissioner Haggerty,
Here.
Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Linares,
Here.
Commissioner Trister,
Here.
Commissioner Woods, Commissioner Droz,
Here.
Commissioner Pascarelli,
Here.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Noreen.
You're welcome.
We're going to sit alternates. We're going to sit GF for Commissioner Woods, and we're going to sit Stewart for Commissioner Claffey. And we will go right to, let's see, we have, there's no changes on the agenda?
No.
Okay, so we'll go right to public participation. If there's anybody within the Zoom application, you'd like to raise your hand. If you'd like to participate, if calling in the Zoom meeting by telephone, use *9 to raise your hand to be recognized, or use *6 when recognized to speak by telephone. And if you could state your name and address, you can. Would be appreciated. Is there anybody online?
No one's online.
Is there anybody in the room that would like public participation? Please come forward if you are right up to the end of the table. If there's somebody in the room that would like to speak. See, nobody. We will go right into, is there any remarks from commissioners? We don't have any public hearings tonight. Next thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes. I'll entertain an approval of minutes from meeting June 14th, 2023.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made. And we have a second, seconded by Commissioner Droz. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously to approve the minutes of June 14th. Next thing on the, under new business, we have a pre-application discussion for 79 East Cedar Street. The applicant can come forward if you would, please.
Yes, right at the head of the table.
Thank you. I do have a handout, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I also just brought up an aerial for the site as well. Just so that
So I kind of wanted to present this to you in a soft offering. It's been vacant for a long time. Kind of looked at it, had a surveyor queue it up. I think we can have a 12-car stack. Looks like a nice building for me. I am here for 38 years in town. Cedar Street location is suffering a little bit right now with the construction, but very hard to take a left-hand turn out of that location. So I would like to have a location on the right-hand side, and you know, between you and I, I've worked on it for years and years, and I have this under contract. If I can get it approved, special exception. It's not zoned for restaurant use or QSR use, but, you know, there's a lot of banks in that zone and there's CVS in that zone, and I thought maybe you guys would consider it. I could sell coffee in that zone, so. Been at it for 38 years. I have 18 stores. I had 20, I closed 2. Good location, not, you know, it's not the best location, but it's on a scale from 1 to 10, it's an 8. And I think I can get the brand to approve it. And I think if you guys would allow it, we've got, I think it's a nice possibility for me too. And I've got the property tied up. I'm not gonna be a tenant, I'm gonna own it, so. It's a nice, I think it's a nice site. I did have, Ellen Giovanni stake it out. I think those parking spaces at the bottom are not leaning that way, but I think they should be. We're queuing 12 cars. I have some locations that queue 7 cars. I have some locations that queue 15 cars. I think 12 cars is good. We basically move our customers a minute apiece. So if you pull in, there's 5 cars ahead of you. It's gonna take you 5 minutes to get a cup of coffee. Most of the people go through our drive-throughs. It's liquid. It's like, you know, they're looking to get their coffee and move along. So.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I've got blueprints of the property, but it's the same as what you have there. I did a handout.
Was there any improvements that you were thinking about doing or changing anything in the layout at all?
Yes, only not, I mean, I'll change whatever you guys want me to, but you see where the no entrance sign is, that island?
Yes.
When you're in the drive-through, it's a little sloppy to get out of there. I kind of would move the handicap probably to the other side and, you know, either delete that island or, you know, make it.
Or move it over
make,
one.
Make it more narrow, yeah. There's plenty of parking there.
Yep.
On both sides, so I think that island is, I drive an SUV, it's a Ford. I went through there the other day, I was like, wow, this is a little awkward to get out of, but,
Yeah.
you know, yep.
I noticed the same thing.
You did, thank you, yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Any commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
And again, my name is Kerry Yagnon, been around for 38 years in town and love the town, great to do business. Started my Dunkin' world here, so.
Yeah, you've been an asset to the town.
Thank you.
So from staff,
Staff, yes.
the main consideration here, of course, is as of now, the zoning regulations do not permit drive-through restaurants within the town center zoning. So it permits drive-throughs for banks, it permits drive-throughs for pharmacies. What we've done is just put up a map for you that shows kind of the existing location of drive-throughs either previously approved. There's one at the top left, which doesn't look to be as much used now, but it is a drive-through as designed. So these are the drive-throughs that are currently within the BTC zone. So the question in front of the commission is, should drive-through restaurants be allowed in the business town center zone? Because they would have to be added through a text amendment to be able to be permitted within that zone. Staff's concerns primarily, and I shared them with Mr. Gagnon as well, when we met previously, is really looking at the business, the town center and thinking about what the impact of drive-throughs could or couldn't be when it comes to pedestrians and when it comes to generally the feeling of the town center and what we want the future of the town center to be. So those are the big planning considerations, as in, you know, while we're looking at this one particular site, we're also looking at the zone, because we couldn't write a zoning regulation that says only this one property located at this can get that type. That would be spot zoning, and that would not work within the framework of zoning. So the town needs to look at it as more of a larger question of should this be permitted within the business town center zoning. So that's step one. From then, if it was, then it would be through the application process. But again, this is a larger zoning question and a question about the town center as a whole. So that's really what should be considered. What I would be looking for from the commission tonight is whether it is something that the commission is open to and they want staff to research it, look at other examples, how it has worked, hasn't worked, see if we can find other small areas that do have it, kind of within this walkable framework that we're looking at, and then go from there, or, and also provide the applicant kind of that knowledge of if the commission wants it looked into, or if the idea is saying, no, we're okay with no drive-through restaurants in the town center zone, then that would be that input. And then Mr. Gagnon wouldn't, have to spend a lot of money investing in plans and going through the process for something that may not get approved.
Yeah, so if I may, just to comment on that, of course, we're gonna do walk-in also. So anybody in that area, and I'm planning on keeping my store on Main Street also. So they can walk over there, they can walk to this one, but this one will have a drive-through to probably mostly accommodate the cars on the Cedar Street in the morning. So those cars on Cedar Street, I mean, the one that I own now on Cedar is a great store, but with all the construction there and the apartments going in behind me, I can use one across the street. So it's just very difficult to take a left-hand turn out of there. So my thoughts were to better accommodate my customers.
Questions from commissioners?
I have,
Yes.
Mr. Planner, the way you explained it, banks are allowed to have drive-throughs, but other businesses aren't.
Correct.
And that's how the current regulation is written.
Yes.
So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, banks and pharmacies. But if we did allow this by special exception, that doesn't mean that we would allow any restaurant or any other restaurant in any other location. Yeah, it'll be based on whether or not it's safe, whether the impact it has. And so we would have protection even if we did allow this, we would still have enough protection in there in the regulation, or you'd have to design enough protection in there that protect us against any safety things of a big operation.
Yeah, and with special exceptions, there is, again, some discretion when it comes to special exceptions when it's on specific criteria. So for example, the criteria that we have now for drive-through restaurants is they're required to submit a traffic impact analysis describing peak hours of operation, volume of customers per hour, stacking lane length needed to anticipate for the anticipated volume, turning movements, roadway capacity, and level of service. So that's a relatively in-depth traffic analysis. The locations need to be at least 150 feet from a corner. The windows shall be located on one side of the restaurant building and shall be positioned to minimize conflict, doorways, and pedestrian. And then the restaurant structure and drive-through service menu board or intercom shall be located not less than 300 feet from an adjacent residential structure. So that's the regulations as they are now. Now, there could be areas that are redeveloped within town center. There could be that. So looking forward, again, looking at holistically as the zone, yes, having things in place to make sure there isn't those pedestrian conflicts, that should be important with any drive-through application. There's just potentially a higher level of, again, pedestrian activity within the town center zone. So that's staff's concern, again, when looking at allowing drive-throughs or not within the zone. My concern is pedestrians, and again, that feeling of the town center.
Do you know what the hours of operation would be if you had this store?
Yeah, I'd probably be open at 5 a.m. and closing at 11 p.m.
Okay.
So 24-hour stores I have 6 24-hour stores. I used to have 9. I'd like to get rid of all of them because it's a headache to staff at night, so.
And one item, if I could, Mr. Chairman, to
Sure.
address Commissioner Linares' discount between the uses. I think it's been looked at historically when you look at drive-through uses, banks have a lower turnover of vehicles typically. They may not, but when you're looking at that versus a food service industry, the turnover rates are a little different. That is likely why they were permitted within the zone. If that's something that you would like more specific numbers on, ITE trip generation, all that type of stuff. But there generally is a difference between kind of different levels of uses, and with the fast food restaurant being on the higher end of the amount of traffic that passes through.
So if I can comment on that, so we average 40 cars an hour. So if our average time is a minute per car. So if you pull in and there's 5 cars ahead of you, you're gonna take 5 minutes to get a cup of coffee in the morning. And the banks are averaging, I think it's 8 cars, 12 cars an hour, sorry. So it's a little less, but we move them. I mean, the bank's transaction is like,
I think a lot slower.
it's a little over 5 minutes.
Yeah.
At a window. Ours is a minute. And for the most part, it's prepaid on the app, and they pull up, it pings when they drive in the driveway, and we prepare it, and, have a nice day. Thank you. See you tomorrow, type of thing. So we move them quickly. There's not a lot of stacking. It's not,
Commissioners?
Yeah, question.
Yes.
Yeah, thought it was a little odd that, allowing banks and pharmacies for drive-through, but not a restaurant. And I guess second, it is business town center, but it's kind of in the corner there, not necessarily in the heart of the town center. So I would be a little less concerned with its location there. Like you said, difficult to make a left out of this location or a left out of the Cedar?
my existing location,
Difficult to make a left
very
turn.
hard to take a left-hand turn out of there in the morning.
I
And
agree.
now with the construction's even
Yeah.
worse, but
Yeah,
I think this location would service the customers headed into the city, into Hartford. And, my other location existing is good. You want to take a right and then a right outside of,
sure.
when you leave. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hard to take a left out of that.
Yeah, but
This would be great. This is at a light. There's
Yeah.
no governing it. It's perfect.
Yeah, I would certainly be in favor of entertaining, text amendment changes, knowing that, as you put it, Mr. Chairman, a special exception, that we have some sort of control over it, Putting a super high volume drive-through restaurant right in the center may not be such a good idea, but thank you.
So if I can comment for 1 second.
Certainly, go right ahead.
He's absolutely right, and I'm not here looking for a zone change. I'm here looking for an exception. And I think an exception is controllable by the town. So I think special exception would be great.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Just to clarify, yeah, the difference between, of course, the special exception would need a zone change to be able to be utilized within that zone. The only other way an exception to the regulations would be a variance. So that would be a variance process through the zoning board of appeals. That's how you get an exception of the regulations under certain circumstances with a hardship. But this case, to utilize the special exception process, it would have to be in the regulations.
Got it. Thank you.
To make it fair for any other locations that may come up, in the future, might want an opportunity to change their business to something else besides a bank. Any other commissioners?
Just to follow up on what you just said, so just to clarify, if we do the special exception that does require a zone change, in the future, another restaurant, they'd still have to come to us and get the special exception again, or would they be good to go?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they still have to come to us. Go right
Mr.
ahead.
Gagg, what are the peak hours, like say 5 AM to 8, 6 to 9?
Yeah, it's 6:30 to 9:30.
And then
That's our peak.
what's kind of your average hourly throughout the afternoon? Say 4 to 6.
So we're doing about 40 cars an hour in the AM, and it drops down to 25% of that, so it's 10 cars an hour.
So I think it's an interesting location, and I think it would work. So yeah, I think we need to look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lenars, do you have anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right. Gia, still? Gia, go right
I
ahead.
do have a question. If this were permitted for this location, and let's say this gentleman sold it and changed his mind, didn't want to have his business there, would that grandfather to, the next company that wanted to go into that
The
location?
special exception, you know, it wouldn't be if it was a drive-through restaurant to a drive-through restaurant in and of itself, it's not a change of use. Now, if it was,
Depending on what it is.
yeah, if it's a
Okay,
modification, if they have to change
Is
anything.
it a coffee
to the
shop
site.
or is it a
Yeah.
real restaurant? Cause I don't consider Dunkin' Donuts a real, not that you're not a restaurant, but not,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I mean, it's, wouldn't be the same thing as a Burger King or
Yeah.
something like that.
Or as
So,
we all know, a
or
Chick-fil-A
a
or,
Chick-fil-A.
which is now, which unfortunately, the whipping child of the drive-through world when you say it, but they have
Yep.
so much
Yep.
volume going through, and that's why everything is a double or more drive-through.
Now, even if we decide to change the regulation to allow it, the applicant would still have to come in with a plan and satisfy us that he's meeting all the requirements and it's safe and he's making any modifications to accommodate the traffic, and he'd have to present that to us.
And that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that would actually be an interesting one for me to look at too, especially with the regulations and see what people have done creatively with drive-throughs. If that's the direction that the commission wants me to go through, is looking to see how different approvals and how you can look at different restaurants. It is hard to parse it down to a coffee shop or that's when you start kind of cluttering your regulations and getting them too specific.
I think everything almost has to come back for approval almost. I would think because, you know, each operation is a little different.
Yep, and that's something that could be potentially looked in again if a change of use requires a different traffic or something or volume.
Mhm.
That I'd have to look into. I haven't seen that done before, but that's something to look into. But typically, you know, when one use goes from one to the other,
It's grandfathered
if they're just, if the use is there and they can kind of use it like a retail store. You know, if they were having limited displays and all of a sudden they had tons of stuff inside, it's still a retail store. So we do kind of look at them very similar.
Yeah. You know, if it was a Krispy Kreme, it would be different, so, I mean, you compare that.
Still would be a coffee shop.
The Krispy Kreme was, let's say that was, it started off as a bank. And then it went to the Krispy Kreme and then it became such volume there that it was disturbing neighbors and stuff, so we would have I would think that we would, as a commission, have some say on,
I can definitely
what could go in.
look into how that has been done in process. I haven't seen that and I haven't done that specifically with use that moved from one to the other that was the same. Because normally it's, yep, you're a coffee shop, you're a restaurant, that's what it exists as.
Gee, anything else?
No.
Okay, Stu.
If I could comment on that, I think it's great. That was a beautiful question to ask. So, I mean, I'm looking for one use and I have 3 kids, 2 of them are working for me. I'm waiting for my daughter to get out of high school, get through college, and I'll see you in Florida. So I'm hoping the kids are gonna take it over and it's gonna remain a Dunkin' for years and years. And if it doesn't, I'm buying a 20-year franchise agreement. So
Could be around.
I plant my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't move along easily, so.
Stu?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the only question would be involving the character of the downtown, where we're making such a push towards it being walkable, small type of, with plumbing building, what do we do inside there, a brewery, you can sit down and do that type of thing. I like the idea of the location of this, because as I think it was Brian who said, often to the right in the corner of the location, pretty completely. So it wouldn't necessarily impede upon the events that we have right there in the parking lot, quite literally, whether it be concerts or markets, that type of thing. My only question, and I've heard some dabbling around it so far, would be going into the future, is someone able to say, well, you approved X, Y, Z, so I want to put a Krispy Kreme right on Main Street. Do we have enough control to be able to say, that's not off in a corner and that's a totally different volume and that's a totally different scheme? Are we opening up the floodgate?
I think you're definitely opening the door. And that's that question of looking at it holistically and thinking about the zone. It does open the door for other sites. to look at it too, while, looking at this one, the impression of yep, it's on the corner, good visibility, it has a drive-through. It's not like, you can see some of the other properties that currently have drive-through, they're a little interesting in the way they go back all the way, come around, and they kind of made it fit within a lot. Even, I don't know how many of you have been through CVS's drive-through there. It has a weird circulation pattern in the back.
Yeah,
And
doesn't work for everything.
yeah. So that's, what they've had and how they fit it in these lots, because the lots typically are smaller within the town center, and they can fill up more of the lot. Like that's the concept of it, is to fill in that downtown walkable area. So I'd say that, yeah, it definitely does open the door to, okay, if the next applicant comes in, now if they come in another area where their traffic engineer says, yep, all the numbers work, all this is fine, and it gets denied on special exception, and they have that expert who says, no, everything came out fine, that's where you kind of could reach that conflict. So, it comes into the experts in the room at the time when the drive-through is proposed for the traffic study.
Can I comment to that? So you bring up a good point, and Krispy Kreme tried it in New England. They're no longer going to try it, so don't fear Krispy Kreme. And Tim Hortons tried it in 52 stores in New England, and they failed also. But Dunkin' is here. It's a brand. I think it's a great brand. I've been at it for 38 years, so I'm a little biased, but it's not going anywhere. I think if you open it up to a coffee shop, which is basically what we are, and our average ticket in the drive-through window is $4 because 4 out of 5 customers get a coffee only. So they blow right through the drive-through, and the 5th one might get a sandwich or something in the morning or a donut. And our average ticket is lower at the drive-through than it is anywhere else. But without a drive-through today, very hard for us to succeed. I am planning on keeping the store on Main Street. I'm planning on, if I can, open this one, if you guys allow me. And I think it's a great location to take the heat off my Cedar Street location. So, you bring up a good point, and Dominic brought it up too, but honestly, I don't think you're gonna have a lot of other Krispy Kremes or Tim Hortons applying, because they're not coming through New England for sure. So, thank you.
I do say that since COVID, places like Dunkin' Donuts have really moved the drive-throughs, where they've become very efficient along with other stores. So I think I don't see it to be a problem. Any other commissioners have any concerns? Do you have enough information?
Yep. So looking at sure, my marching orders are basically to look into it.
Yep.
As like I said, see what has
See if
been
we
done
can
in
make that
others, because there seems to be interest in the room. Again, my concern is, as I stated it, probably the 5th time I stated it, so sorry for the repetition, but it is that pedestrian and the walkability is my concern for the town center.
And if I can add to that, we are looking at doing that. I mean, we want to keep, we're going to have a dining room and welcome anybody who wants to walk in. And I think the stack of the vehicles at 12 cars is pretty good. And, we look for the customer, so.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner, board members, thank you. Appreciate it.
The next application under new business is a pre-application discussion for 156 Payne Road. Is the applicant here? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I also have some printouts.
And I also brought up here on this side as well.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Jay Vachani. This is my father, Govind Vachani. And I believe on the Zoom call, we have our agent, Michael Matroni. I'm not sure if he's,
Don't see him on there.
I think he's probably on the other one before we have on the phone, raise their hand.
On the phone, gotcha.
You can go ahead and speak, sir.
Okay, so we're here to see if you would allow us to open a redemption center here located at 156 Payne Road. In the papers I provided, I gave a map here on the middle third page, I believe. So we would want our redemption center located right here, labeled the redemption center. And just a background on how the process of the redemption center works. So customers, so first, let me just say, my dad owns a redemption center in East Hartford, located at 120 Tollin Street. He's owned that since 2004. So it's been almost 20 years since we've been operating that business. So we want to extend to this location, and here's sort of how the process works. So customers bring in their empty containers, water bottles, soda cans, beer bottles, and those empties get counted, and the customer gets paid 5 cents per empty. And we have to sort these empties by their respective brands, such as Coca-Cola products are sorted with Coca-Cola, Pepsi products are with Pepsi, Red Bull with Red Bull, and so on. And these bottles are kept, we have bagged box containers located through our facility, and the plastic bottles are put into their respective containers. The aluminum cans are put into their respective containers. The glass bottles are put into the beer boxes, and they're palletized and wrapped up. The following page, after the description, I have a picture of just kind of how the finished product looks. So here on the left side, these are all the beer bottles, fully stacked and palletized. Right next to it, you can see all the water bottles, plastic water bottles, and towards the right of it, you can see all the soda cans, all nicely put together. We fill the bags up to the top. There's usually a line on the top of the bag where it tells us, you know, how much to fill up to. And that's kind of the process. And then the distributors come and collect it, and they pay us for the handling fee. So the water, so all the non-alcoholic products, we get paid 3.5 cents for the handling fee, and all the beer alcoholic products, we get paid 2.5 cents per empty. And we have 4 main distributors who will pick these empties up. So those 4 are listed here: HDI, TRR, Tamra, and Arbor, and they pick up their respective, products. And generally, the pickups consist of a 53-foot tractor trailer truck that backs up into our garage, and we get 5 to 6 pickups per week out of these 4 main distributors. And just something I listed here is like the customer flow as far as like the cars that come in and out. On a slow day, we may get 25, 30. On a busy day, we may get 40 to 50 cars, that is. And I just listed some important, things. Our plan for noise, generally, like whenever we talk about a redemption center, noise is a concern. So our complete operation will be taking place inside of the property here. And so everything, and then the trucks will back up into where it says the truck entrance. So we'll back all the way into the loading. It's not a loading dock, but it's just a garage there, garage door. And then we'll be loading up the empties through that entrance. And then over here, we also labeled the natural sound buffer, that is the trees. So any outside, all the minimal noise that may occur will be kind of buffered through all the trees that are there. And another concern, when someone's opening a redemption center, may be the pest control. So we'll be planning to have a contract with Eco Choice Termite and Pest Control for annual maintenance, or maybe monthly maintenance, however, we construct that, just to ensure that there's no pest issues. And simply like our role in the community, we work with Boy Scout troops, we work with churches, schools, and nonprofit organizations for their can and bottle drives. And generally, it helps keep the environment and, the area clean. Generally, if there's a redemption center in the area, people will be motivated to recycle, bring it to the center. And also it's a much quicker process than, having people go to the Stop and Shop or Big Y and kind of put one can at a time. So it's much faster. Generally, customers, if they bring in, some customers, we provide the bags and they usually have a line there. And if they fill it to the top, they pre-count it and we just pay them on the spot. And if in the event that it's not counted, we'll count it. And generally customers are in and out within 5 minutes. So it's a very quick process. And, people love coming to our location here in East Hartford. And, we were hoping to open another location, here in Newington. And the last page here, the last page here, I just asked one of our Boy Scout committee troop members, if you would just kind of write a description of how, he feels about doing business with us. And, he kind of wrote us a short description. And we generally, for the customers, we generally give 5 cents. So, but any troops and Boy Scout troops, we give them the 6 cents. We give them an extra cent, and as a donation for doing business with us. And as he mentioned, having small businesses like yours is a win for everyone. So that's kind of like the background for what we do. And we're open to questions if you have any.
Very good. Commissioners have any questions?
Sure.
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
That's, a pickup is a 53-foot trailer, right?
Right.
And there's 5 to 6 of those a week.
Right.
Is that per distributor or is that total?
No, that's total. And that generally pickups are we have to have enough, stock in order to call for a pickup. So this number is just based on our East Hartford location. So maybe in the start, we may need one pickup every 2 weeks, it's just that, the more stock you have, you're going to need to get a pickup. So this is total 5 to 6 pickups. So we usually get one pickup from HDI. We get one from TRR. We get about 2 from Tamra and one from Arbor. So we may get 3 from Tamra too, because generally, as you see, the Tamra, they collect a wider, variety. They collect Pepsi, Polar, Red Bull, all the store brands and all the water bottles. So because they carry more variety, we're going to need more, pickups from them. So it's 5 to 6 total.
And the customer supplies really nothing other than the empty bottles.
Exactly. Yeah. So they bring their empty bottles.
You count them all.
And we count them, and then we pay them 5 cents per empty.
All right. Off chance, you have all these like local breweries with their IPAs. What happens to things that are not redeemable, I guess?
What happens if things are not redeemable? Yeah. So generally,
the customer has to take them back, or do you have some sort of other way to recycle those?
So generally, if things are not, we first talk to our distributors and we see if we'll collect it and then we'll talk to the distributors. Generally, some distributors are willing to work with us to collect it. And if they say like, hey, we cannot accept this, then we'll just, we'll hold that to the side and we'll remind the customers like, hey, these empties are not, recyclable.
Okay. And the customer would be responsible for taking them away. You're not going to keep them on your property, correct?
No, we just discard them.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just to, have a stronger customer relation. So, we just try to generally, sometimes, customers may bring like empties that, don't belong, like, some certain water bottles have those, the red lines. So we tell them, hey, this is not acceptable to refund in Connecticut. And we just tell them like this, and generally they just don't bring it the following time. So sometimes, they don't know what to bring, and as of this year, they extended the, juice and Gatorade and, ciders. And so it's always, customers are always asking what we can and what we can't bring in. And we have a poster. We update our posters to, let them know what is, redeemable and what is not.
Thank you.
I was just about to ask. Stu, go right ahead.
You mentioned, bottles and cans get bagged.
Yeah,
And those go to a storage room waiting for pickup.
exactly.
Cool. Then you mentioned the beer bottles get boxed and palletized. Are those also kept inside? Because that's not mentioned.
Yes, that is all kept inside. Yeah, everything is kept inside.
Okay. That's what I was
Yep.
asking about.
Exactly.
Pallets outside.
Yeah, no, not outside. So generally, that's why when we were looking for a property, we wanted to make sure it's big enough to keep everything inside, stored inside. And this property, fits our needs to keep everything well clean and, everything inside.
How much is one exactly?
Yep, thank you.
We also, I know, I think it was last year or the year before, the state government passed the deposit on the little nipper bottles.
Right.
Will you be dealing with those as well?
No. So the nipper bottles, basically, it's not available for deposit, but it's just, there's a nip tax on it. It's called the environmental fee. So generally, what package stores do is they charge the customers a 5-cent fee, which I believe goes to the town. And the town uses that for, their cleaning up process and things like that, but that is not redeemable.
All right, I wasn't sure how that worked.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Zach.
So, what is the nature of the potential amendment? Is this property not zoned for this type of use?
So this property is located within the PD zone. The PD zone doesn't have a use that could fit into this category. When the applicant's representative originally met with us and we talked to him about it, our first inclination was, industrial zone is where these end up sometimes, just because for lack of a better use for it. And even in our industrial zone, there we do have something that says similar to other uses, and it's an amalgamation of those type of uses. But this is something that's kind of in between in nature, where it's not a full-blown industrial use, as in they're not making cans, crushing them, processing them, shredding them, doing all of that. They're kind of in this middle process.
Yeah.
So the nature would be really an amendment to have this type of use within the PD zone. Under current regulations, the way I look at it, there's enough in the industrial zone to say this is similar to another use, it could be permitted. But then the question becomes PD zone and, is this industrial in nature or is this more consumer in nature?
And also, we have nothing in our regulations about redemption centers or recycle centers at all, period. So that'd be something to consider moving forward.
Makes sense.
The area is commercial, and there's been other businesses in there that have had just as much traffic, truck traffic, so I don't see it to be a problem in the area. It's just a matter of maybe figuring out how it fits within our regulations. Any other commissioners have anything else? Brian, is there anything else? No? Dave?
No, I was just gonna say, I was thinking the same thing when as Gio said, that when these pre-applications come in, I'm wondering like, A, why are they coming here? Nothing to do with this particular business, like, are they not allowed? Do we have to change something? Do we not have this yet? Are they just looking for a little guidance? Like, so sometimes when we hear them speak, as he was speaking, I'm like, well, is it allowed in this section? Is it not allowed? Like, why is it here and why is it in a pre-application?
Maybe we should have gone to a staff report first.
Yeah, for the
that's my
pre-applications, it's always
Yeah.
nice to know what's going on. It has nothing to do with yours.
Right.
And it seems like everything fits and it could work here.
Right.
But sometimes I wanna know, like, why is it here? Is it just for, their, cause they're inquisitive of what it gonna be allowed, not allowed before they spend all this money? Or is it gonna take a big zone change in order for this to happen or something like that? So, no, okay, so I have nothing with this one, it looks great.
Right, thank you.
And I'll make sure one's going forward. It's all a timing thing too with staff report or no staff report, depending on what information you get when we get it.
Yeah, just because we don't see these so often, they're kind of new to us overall, like as a whole, only a couple years that we've been doing these types of things. I think they go over pretty well. It helps out, you know, the petitioner coming in if they want to go forward, and it gives us an inclination on what's coming in and what we need to do to kind of make it happen or, you know, set a precedence going forward.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Stu?
And if we know that question like ahead of time, obviously with this meeting, we can get the hard paperwork ahead of time. If it's a big question, we can actually think about it.
Yep.
Before we get here versus, oh, you know what I mean? So.
Absolutely. It's all just timing with this meeting and when we got information.
No problem. John, do you have anything?
I just was curious in terms of, when we talked about, you said it was like 5 to 6 pickups a week.
Right.
Will they be like the middle of the day? Will it be fluctuate, or will you have like a set time when we do pickups and deliveries between 6 and 8 or whatever?
So generally, it's not, we try to fix the times with the drivers, but generally the drivers have a schedule from their, you know, distributors. They have to pick up 4 at 4 different redemption centers, or maybe, you know, Big Y or Stop and Shop. They have to go to certain locations. So they may be able to tweak, you know, they may be able to come before they go to a particular location, but generally it's not fixed. But, you know, you can work with the drivers to say, you know, can you please come at a later time? This is our peak time, or this is when we're generally busy. Can you come at another time? You know, so we're able to work with the, you know, drivers.
Okay, and they're not like filling the truck clearly, so they're just picking up what you have and loading it.
Yeah, so basically the driver's role is to, you know, pull back into our location, and they're double checking, you know, what we're putting in, and obviously it gets, you know, double checked back at the facility. But their role is to just make sure that we're putting in everything that, you know, needs to be going in there, you know?
Yep, for sure.
And if they see something, hey, this doesn't belong, they'll just let us know, like, hey, does, you know.
Gotcha. Sounds good to me.
Anything else?
So from staff's determination, and again, it kind of goes back to how this fits, and what's being asked. So we do not have, again, redemption centers. It could be done either through, again, a zoning text amendment to add the specific use, or it could be done through a determination of the TPZ that it potentially fits within, you know, light industrial operations. That is a use that's kind of here, but it's whether that would actually more require a determination from the TPZ, I think, to say, yes, that fits within that type of standard. It says such as assembling components, but bringing stuff together and packaging.
I think it fits
I
underneath
think
that.
so as well.
Yeah, so if it fits under that, then it's a permitted use, and they can go through a site plan and go through that process. But this is kind of that discussion of, does it need a text amendment? Does this need that? And if it could be a determination that is light industrial operations, kind of goes back and following through uses that are allowed, and you can look at that.
Okay, is everybody in agreement to that? Brian, you all right with that?
Yeah.
Yep. John?
Yeah.
Stu? All right, I think it falls underneath that, and I think that'll work, and I don't think it's gonna be too much of an impact, but let's,
Yeah, again,
let's, work with the town planner, and we'll be looking forward to seeing your application coming in.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you to all.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is a pre-application discussion for 85 Kitts Lane. Yep, can come forward.
He's online.
Okay, so the applicant's online, and Mr. Chairman, if you like, I'll give kind of a brief little synopsis ahead of time.
That sounds good. Thank you.
The primary reason why the applicant is here is they're actually looking to open a banquet hall at this location. Part of this is actually to discuss what their plans are and look at what a banquet hall is under regulations. Currently, we do not have banquet hall under regulations or something similar to it. What we do have is clubs or fraternal organizations, and historically, that's how those have existed in a lot of areas in Newington, that you have the club, they have the hall that's associated with it, and they kind of, and that is a permitted use, but that is very specifically clubs and fraternal organizations, and to go to someone who isn't a nonprofit club or that, to apply that to it is a little out of skew with the regulations. So really what they're coming for tonight is to say, hey, tell you what they're planning to do for the banquet hall, to explain the use, to make sure it kind of makes sense as a banquet hall, and then do we add it to the regulations for this zone? So again, this is in the Berlin Turnpike zone.
This is the former VFW building.
Yes.
So if I might add, yes, this is the former VFW, did approve this a couple years ago for an adult daycare and a restaurant. She chose not to move forward, she didn't complete the restaurant. And so this gentleman has apparently an option to lease it as his intention as an event center banquet hall.
Was that before?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that exactly what it was?
But it was on a fraternal organization,
I understand.
yeah, that's.
It's similar enough, and it was really for them to come in to explain the use too, because again, whether you would see there would be a difference between clubs and fraternal organizations or a banquet hall, but that would be the applicant to tell you what their plan is, so they are online and they can kind of.
You can go ahead and start, Maurice, if you'd like.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Oh, okay. Thank you all for allowing me to come in tonight to talk about our event hall. Basically, because I know it was a VFW before, but that's not the intent for what we want to do. We wanted to have something more where people can have their wedding receptions, baby showers, repasts, those sorts of things that they could have at the event hall. When I went to Eric, I was talking to him about it, and when I met with them again, I guess they couldn't find anything that was really like a banquet hall, as he explained. So they didn't know where it would have fell in at as a lounge, a cabaret, a nightclub, or whatever. I didn't know what the other ones, I can't remember what the other ones were. But the only thing we wanted to do was have a place where people can come. We bring them together. We got tables, they got chairs. They might have music or something like that, but nothing where it's like a nightclub and it's a whole bunch of partying people out in the parking lot, they're out in the streets and stuff like that. So we just wanted to have something that would accommodate people to have where they can come and they can bring their family together and enjoy themselves.
So this is what was approved for the adult daycare and the cafe. My understanding is the kitchen is incomplete through the building department. I guess the other stuff has been fitted out that could be used as the event space.
About how many people do you think this size space can accommodate?
I'm not sure what the code is for the assembled unit.
The code on the capacity is 150 people for the building, and that's just upstairs because we're only going to be upstairs. Downstairs is off limits to us, so we're just going to be upstairs. But the capacity is 150 people.
Thank you. Are you planning on redoing the kitchen area?
Yes, I explained that to Eric. That because it needs the hood, it need a hood in there. So right now we just want to just have a place where they could just come, they just bring their food in, but the kitchen is not open. So she have locks on the doors so that people can't use the kitchen. So nobody can use the kitchen until we get a hood inside there.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Dave, go right ahead.
Just one question about the kitchen is, being familiar with this building, is there any plans to keep the kitchen the same size, make it bigger, or just kind of redo what's there?
Just redo what's there. They don't need much space because when people normally having banquets and stuff like that, they normally have it catered anyway. But just in case, once that we do get the kitchen done, if they need to have something warmed up or something like that, use refrigeration and stuff, that's the only thing we would need it for, but we don't need to expand it or anything like that.
Any other questions? Staff have anything else?
No,
No?
I think from
No.
staff, it's just would be guidance whether you would like, again, looking underneath, unfortunately, there wasn't anything similar enough. To fit this underneath, it isn't a use that, you know, banquet hall is a banquet hall on that, so if the commission is open to it, you know, whether you'd want the applicant to do it or whether you'd want staff to look at adding in banquet hall or figuring that out.
Yeah, why does the staff look at it and see what you think would be the easiest, and I think everybody's willing to accommodate this business.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Work with the town planner for the future application, okay?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys have a good night.
Okay, going into old business next. Do you have anything to discuss on petitions for public hearing, or
None,
do you have anything for us under town planner's report?
yeah, so, other than people may be, known to, but, the Culver Street, project, I'm trying to remember if I mentioned this at the last meeting or not, that the, appeal was withdrawn. So, yep, yeah, so that's proceeding and the Mylars have been signed and we're moving through with the final easements. Right now, the conservation easement, and have worked with the, you know, with the applicant, with the owner. So that's moving forward. And then going forward, I do not have too much prepared tonight. As I said, most of the projects are kind of where they were last when I spoke with you. 3333 is still continuing with their installation of their sewer and their water, working with MDC. So we're hoping that moves forward at pace. And again, we'll just continue to work on it.
And this is the Fen Road Car Wash, they finally hammered out their details with NBC. So they should be making that connection down to the busway, so they're gonna have to cut a long way down Myra Cohen and do restoration as well.
Long way away.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question about that property. When you pull into that property, the driveway, and I don't remember it was either hard no or yes. I thought that driveway was going to continue into the Stop and Shop Plaza, and they did. Was that?
What happened there is Mr. Hayes and Stop and Shop Plaza, they got on him. They did not want that traffic routed through his plaza. So they actually came in for a site plan modification where they curved that off. So that was the hammer. Originally it was approved as such, correct. And then they came back and he said, no, we can't. We don't want that traffic through the plaza. So they did a site plan mod, just curved it off. So now everything circulates in and out of my Racone way.
They really wanted to go from Starbucks to Stop and Shop every day. They went all the way around. Okay. So Stop and Shop said no to that, huh?
That's what we were told. Since that's his big tenant there, you know.
I mean, it's like right there, it's paved.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to have it that way, yes.
It would probably benefit them,
Absolutely it would.
because now you'd get that cross
Yeah.
traffic, and possibly that could be customers that could be coming over to use
Right.
any of those businesses over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
two-way street.
Yeah, so no, yeah, it said cross-traffic agreements, I think, are a great thing, you know, especially if someone's going from one to another, it keeps them off of Fen.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially in busy areas, yes.
In busy areas, cross-traffic is very useful.
Any other questions or comments? Go right ahead, Paul, you have anything else?
Oh, that's all I have for tonight.
That's it, okay. We all received communications on CROG letters. If anybody has any questions for staff concerning those?
I have a question. There's, it looks like Simsbury is looking at mobile food vendors. Is that like food trucks? Is that what
I
that?
believe it is, yeah, not all, of them. I haven't looked into that specific ones, but I will. It would be mobile food vendors, so yeah, that would be food trucks, and it might also be carts and stuff. So I will look into that one and report back to you. It is, yeah, food trucks is, yeah.
Great.
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, we're back at, public participation. If there's anybody within the Zoom application that would like to speak, please raise your hand.
No one online.
Okay. Anybody in the public here would like to come speak? Just please come up to the head of the table. And either state your name and address, or you don't have to state your name and address.
You'll know it.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I just want to probably thank Eric and Paul for answering my questions, my emails going back and forth. Paul, you haven't gotten the emails yet. I'm giving you a little time, but I asked questions after the meeting and I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate hearing the pre-application discussions here at the table tonight. I've been following TPZ now for probably 12 years, and sometimes you didn't do that. And then now you're doing it. And I think it's a good idea just to give the applicant an idea of which way you feel you may want to go or not want to go, and let them make the decision as to whether or not they want to try and get the application through. I know there's no back and forth, so this will probably be a question for Eric tomorrow, and you may be addressed it at other times, but I'm just curious about the Frisbee property at the top of Cedar Mountain. I've been waiting 25 years for the realignment of Alumni Road and Maple Hill, sat through so many meetings, and now I hear from town council that it's going to be a right in, a right out, and no left turn, and 25 years of time for a simple solution like that, shaking my head. It's been 20 years that I've been hearing about activity on the turn up at the top of the hill.
So you got two different topics here.
Yeah.
We got Frisbees, and then we got what the council did.
Yeah, Alumni Road's a different story. I'm just saying, I've been listening to Alumni Road about as much as I've been listening to Cedar Mountain, the development there. And the only shovel in the ground that I've seen is the wall go up that the Conservation Commission requested of the required of them. I sat in the old town hall as Amara was threatening TPZ that if they didn't approve their application, that they were going to let the gas station go through and this and that. Well, we're right back to where we were 20 years ago. So I was just wondering, I'll give you a call or whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Rose. Appreciate the comments. We have signed the Mylars, and I believe they're moving forward, but I'm going to have the town staff give us, maybe they could have some answers for you.
So as of right now, I don't believe they've applied for their permits.
They're not applied for permits yet. My understanding is they intend to this year. I don't know if they just start clearing. We've seen some potential plans, some things they want to, do, but they still finalizing their stuff with DOT for a light. I believe it's been approved, but I have not seen the final plans for that. So
that sometimes takes a long time. Yes. Okay, and as far as the alumni road, we didn't really have any participation in that. It was just decided for right in, right out.
The town, again, the engineering department working with DOT.
Anybody else?
That was the easiest, quickest, most inexpensive solution, I think, to get the gate up. Is to get a traffic control there at Cedar Street. So.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Please come forward.
Hello, y'all. Jacob Knowlton, 10 Hillside Street. I am coming to comment on the first pre-application. Well, first, pre-applications are awesome. Thank you for doing those. That's a really cool system to see and learn from. But the first pre-application of the drive-through in the town center, it's a bit concerning, mainly because even though we're talking about how it's in the far corner, corners, Planning 101, corners are so important. Corners, corners, corners. They are what induces your traffic, your foot traffic specifically. So if you want for people to look at the other end of the road and go to that end of the road. And then in that process, see all the storefronts on this side. You want something on the other end of that road to induce that demand. And by providing the induced demand for commuters to be making that turn in, and then also increasing the amount of traffic that is in that space, you are reducing walkability. I know the applicant mentioned that they are having a walk-in option, stressing not walkability. That is not walkability. Walkability is how comfortable your pedestrians feel in that space and how frequently you are going to get foot traffic because of how comfortable that space is for your pedestrians. So I know on that Cedar Street, that streetscape is right? Like we probably want that to improve a little. So it's not necessarily what is there, but what could be. And if you want to enhance the entirety of your town center, which is supposed to be a haven for your pedestrians out of everything, you're surrounded by highways. That's the most, I've lived in this town my entire life. The most frustrating thing is you have to own a car to get everywhere. And with an aging population, I just implore y'all to really consider. Because the last thing I think we need in the center of town is more drive-throughs, because the banks and everything like that already fragments your pedestrian comfortability within there. So with that, let me see if I have any other notes. I'm just gonna leave y'all with this. Think about your favorite places to go out to eat, your favorite places to vacation. Do those places have drive-throughs in the center of town? And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Anybody else? Please come forward.
Bob Tallard. I was curious since the last time I was here, if anybody looked into the cannabis situation. About other towns, if they did any research on neighboring towns and any effect that it may have had, or any information from anybody on the committee. I don't. Going forward. I have an article. This is from Friday, March 31st, 2023. It's from the Hartford Current, the Connecticut section. And it talks about cannabis, and the chief of police, Raphael Medina, warned against potential mental health concerns and traffic hazards and more. Weathersfield planners have set new rules that allow recreational marijuana in town. And I highlighted a lot of other different things, but he wrote a letter to the town that cannabis use may increase the risk of developing schizophrenia, depression, other psychiatric disorders. Social services, police department must respond to increased interaction and emotional disturbed persons with the police. And it goes on to page 3. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 18 years in the pharmaceutical industry, and I left. And I think everybody knows this, but I just want to state this for the record. The drug industry does not care about you, your family, your kids, your mother, or your grandkids. They want to get you hooked on drugs, and they don't care. I can tell because I left. I'm not going to see people get hooked on drugs, and it was terrible. One of the things that I did want to bring up, I mentioned mental health. In the pharmaceutical industry, there's several drugs that they're giving kids these days, 7, 6, 8 years old. It's Ritalin. Ritalin is a class 2 narcotic. And what it means by class 2 narcotic, it's addictive. And I have the chemical composition of Ritalin at home. It is the same chemical composition of cocaine. So basically, if you're giving your kids Ritalin, anybody out there, or anybody in this room, you're basically giving them the same chemical composition as cocaine. There's also Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil. They don't have any street value because the intensity of the drug is not in them. But Ritalin is a serious drug and should not be given to kids because the problem is they've had suicidal tendencies And I can't imagine a 6-year-old or 7-year-old having suicidal tendencies. I have trouble coming to grips with that, or depression and violence at such an age. Kids are, they're giving them these drugs because the kids are not focused. Kids are kids, period. I went outside in the morning when it's summertime. I played till the sun came down. I came in and I ate supper. And I think a lot of people could attest to that, being a young, well, I'm 71, so being a baby boomer. But I can tell you this, that it put shockwaves through the drug industry in about 1996. There was a mass shooting, and I forgot where it was, and I'm sorry I don't have specifics, but they did mention in the shooting that the person was on Ritalin. Now they just use the term mental health issue. What is the definition of a mental health issue? Could be anything. That opens up a floodgate, literally. You're opening up a dam. But in 1996, there was a mass shooting, like I said, and the kid was on Ritalin. And ever since all the other mass shootings, they've never mentioned any type of drug that they've been on, or because the drug industry is so powerful. They are evil. And I'm so glad I left. And I think with the cannabis, though, getting back to that, I want to explain that what could lead to other drugs possibly. It's not written in stone, but I think for medical reasons, cannabis, absolutely. It's better than giving your child a pill. You should give them love and affection, go out and play baseball or something with them, or catch or something there, or go to the park. But for medical reasons, I agree 100% with cannabis. And I have no problem with that. It helps people with pain and so forth. And I know people that do take them, and they do tell me it does help. That's a good thing. To have recreational marijuana, I think that the chief of police in Weathersfield, Rafael Medina, I think said it best. And I'm opposed to recreational marijuana. I always will be, knowing how the drug industry works. And I started my talk about mentioning about what the drug industry is capable of doing. And I hope that going forward, you think about this, because I think it's going to create more problems. The town is growing. We've got a lot of construction going on in the town, as we all know. We're going to be bringing in more people, and we might get people from other towns coming in here and maybe even robbing the place. Hoffman's got robbed the other day. They broke in, they went in through the roof. And I know Scott for years, and he told me what happened. I'm not going to tell you what went on, but so anyway, if they can get into Hoffman's, which he gave me a guided tour of that place before he opened it, and that place is pretty fortified. They're going to break into this place left and right. And they're going to possibly, I'm speculating, obviously, who knows if some of these people are going to be walking out there with marijuana and somebody doesn't have any money, they're going to get robbed walking out of the building. I don't know if we're going to need a police officer there 24/7, just to make sure nobody breaks in the middle of the night. They can break into Hoffman's. They can surely get into this building, because I know Hoffman's, Scott really did fortify the building, protect themselves from break-ins. And I know I'm over my time. I want to thank you for letting me talk and just run this out to you guys, and just really consider it, please. Okay? For our children. I don't have any children, but generations to come, your grandchildren, your kids, and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public wishing to speak? All right, do I have any, hearing none, is there any comments from Commissioner Trista? Go right ahead.
Yeah, I would love to actually address some of the things Mr. Tallard just said. What I know about cannabis in Connecticut is that it hasn't been legal long enough for us to have any data really to determine which way it's going relative to crime or mental health crisis or anything like that. What we do have, though, is data from other states, and I would urge you to go and research some of the data in the state of Washington, which has had legalized recreational cannabis for about 10 years almost now. What they've found related, I mean, because it's a federally illegal substance, the type of research that can be done is limited. But preliminary research in the state of Washington has shown that since legalization, the rate of teenage drug use has declined slightly. So is there a correlation? Is there causation? I don't know, but that's consistent with other places that have done legalization as well. So I would urge you to research the states that have had it for a lot longer and see what kind of data they're getting related to crime. Because from what I understand, there really isn't any correlation anywhere related to increases in crime, spikes in crime. I know there's a lot of concern, but there's really nothing yet to show any of those concerns being founded. So I would urge you to research in the states that have had it longer.
Anything else? Any other commissioners have any comments? Questions? All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Seconded, all in favor? Aye. Very good. Good night, everybody, and thank you very much, and thank NCTV, and thank you, Paul and Eric.